Speaking of fun, have you been watching, and I have no idea, I don't know what you're going to say, because we're going to do this unscripted. Have you watched the Cowboys documentary yet on Netflix?
I've not yet, no.
And you call yourself an NFL fan?
No, I call myself an NFL fan because
I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on.
Because I haven't watched it. That's how I know I'm an NFL fan.
My wife was out of town. She does, some international traveling. She got back. I held off because I mean, wife goes out of town. There's an 8-part documentary on the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones and the Gambler, done by the crew that does what's all this stuff with Tim Tebow and Malice at the Palace. Really good production crew. That they put that together. Comes out, a lot of fanfare. It's completely all access. I mean, you're following Jerry Jones in his helicopter. I had high expectations, and I'd seen some good stuff. I'd seen Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, various NFL media types, bigger names, saying, hey, I started watching and I couldn't stop. I held off. I think it came out on like the 19th, and I held off till my wife came back. We're already through 4 episodes. Watched it last night, or watching like 1 episode a night. It gets better and better, and the stuff that is in there that I had forgotten about with Tom Landry and Jimmy Johnson and Jim, like the stories that from that era. Jimmy Johnson, I'm going to give you a little spoiler. He didn't feed the Cowboys on the plane ride home because they lost a pretty meaningless regular season game. If you did that now, it would be all over social media. You would have people petitioning for the head coach to get fired because he was starving his team. Absolute must watch. I know we might not get into much Cowboys talk today, but I don't care about the NFL preseason. That Netflix Dallas Cowboys show is an absolute must watch.
And look, if you were to rank the ownership in the NFL, and if we were to do this 30 years ago, Jerry Jones would be very high on that list. I now think in an era where we have Jimmy and Dee Haslam messing up the Browns like they are right now. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit of Bengals, Mike Brown, what he's doing there, Michael Bidwill at the Cardinals, like so many toxic situations.
Raiders
in
have
the
some
NFL.
ownership issues. Even with Tom Brady, Raiders have some ownership issues.
The combination of Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, yet again, proving themselves to be completely incapable in 2025 of running a modern NFL franchise, of trying to do things in this super old school way, which is just not going to deliver you championships anymore. And don't get me wrong, I still think overnight people are going to praise the Bengals for getting the Hendrickson deal done, and they're going to praise the Commanders for getting the McLaurin deal done. Yes, it's good those deals got done. It's way too late.
It's way too late.
But for Micah Parsons, who you could have signed 2 off seasons ago, who could be being paid less than Nick Bosa, who could be being paid less than Myles Garrett, who could be being paid less than Trey Hendrickson, is going to have a contract bigger than all of them, is currently not training with the team despite probably being the best defensive player in the NFL. And it again comes down to organizational shenanigans from a pair of men who believe that they know how to do things and everyone else is wrong, and they've just left themselves in this glaring hole, which means that yet again the Cowboys won't be successful this season.
So that's the reason I brought up the Cowboys documentary on Netflix. Number one, the main reason to watch it is because it gives you this perspective of Jerry Jones and his life and taking over the Cowboys and Tom Landry and Jimmy Johnson. The biggest takeaway from all of it, and I haven't even finished it, but I've seen this from other people, and it's painfully clear because writing in Houston for more than a decade, being around the Cowboys, I've written a lot of Jerry Jones columns. The Jerry Jones from when he bought the Cowboys, they win their Super Bowls, Jimmy Johnson, to the Jerry Jones now 30 years later, it's pathetic. I mean, it's sad, it's pathetic. But I have no sympathy.
No.
Because not
Trust
only is he a gazillionaire.
Nobody in this room is crying into their silk sheets.
He is the definition of his own worst enemy. He is so over. He's not even hard-headed. He is so overly proud and self-obsessed, and he's operating still almost like in this 1950s, used car salesman way. The fact that nobody can tell him is, Steven and his family and the PR staff there, and the fact that nobody can tell him, like, man, this didn't work in 2000. This doesn't work in 2025. And ultimately, Will, he knows more than anyone, it's all about winning a championship in Dallas. It's all about the next Super Bowl. And we are closer than ever to Jerry Jones going to his grave and never winning another Super Bowl. And the reason will not be because the Dallas Cowboys weren't good enough. They didn't have enough talent. They didn't have a franchise quarterback. They didn't have a great edge rusher. It'll be because Jerry Jones became the worst owner, not in the NFL, in all of pro sports. And I'm not talking about pro sports in America. I'm talking about international pro sports. Jerry Jones right now he has more power, more money, more sway, he has the trophies, and he is so lost in the woods. Like there's these scenes of him hunting in this deer stand, rifle stand, and he's up there shooting as like an 80-year-old guy. He looks, again, pathetic. Jerry Jones is lost in the woods. Like he is so far up his own bleep that nobody will ever get him again. The fact that he thinks he can do a handshake deal with Micah Parsons in some back room and not bring in David Mulligetta, who was Deshaun Watson's agent, who's one of the most powerful agents in the NFL.
I would say
is so absurd. Is so absurd that I have no sympathy. And the Cowboys, but here's the thing: he won't fire himself. He won't delegate power. It's never going to get fixed there until Jerry Jones goes away.
I look at the teams that we're kind of if I talk about them as a blanket, and I want to talk more about the Cowboys, but between the situation with Micah Parsons at the Cowboys, between what the Bengals are doing and considering the amount of talent that they have, and considering the Commanders have left what they've left so late and the weird offseason they've had, I won't be stunned if none of these teams are in the playoffs come January. And they are three of, arguably, the most talented teams.
That's a good point.
Like, they could have three of the top 7-8 quarterbacks in the NFL. Dak Prescott was a legitimate MVP candidate 2 years ago. Now he's got a legitimate downfield threat in George Pickens on the outside, a line which looks like it's been reorganized. They're a team who generally have continued to draft well despite all the nonsense going on behind the scenes, despite the inflated egos of the Joneses costing them year after year. But they have defensive injuries to key players like Marshawn Overshawn, like Trayvon Diggs, who wasn't great last year anyway. You add on top of that, not having the best defensive player in the NFL, probably, even training with you. Like, you just think, oh, we'll get a deal done in the next week and he'll turn up week one and he'll be absolutely gangbusters.
It never works. It didn't work in the 80s. It doesn't work in the 90s. It never works anymore. If you were not with your team in camp and you just magically show up for week one, by the time that you're at your athletic prime in the current moment, it takes you week 4, and guess what always happens? They always get injured. Because like this is out of whack, or they're overcompensating here and they tweak something here. It never works out, Will.
Yeah, I don't think the Cowboys are making the playoffs, regardless of what happens here.
We did the predictions last week. They're not making the playoffs.
And this is with, there are little murmurings coming through that people are starting to really get behind Brian Schottenheimer and think this offense is going to be really good. And like, it's very much kind of behind the scenes whispers. The hipsters are starting to get a little bit excited.
Their defense is absolutely horrible, and they're missing their best defensive player. They were one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year, and they've answered it by not having Micah Parsons be with the team. And he's on a trainer's bench, not in uniform, eating nachos, chatting with Falcons fans.
They are sat in an NFC which has a very inflated middle. 1 or 2 teams at the top and 10 teams who could finish in seeds 3
Which is
through
what we
7.
said all last week on the program, yeah.
And it wouldn't take a lot to elevate them. Get this deal done at the beginning of the season, actually make a few more moves, and they could easily be the 3rd best team in the NFC. And they just refuse to do it because their ownership is a clown show. I know I've called people a clown show twice today, but you know what? That's what it is. We need to ring the circus music. We need to bring out the clowns. It's an utter shambles.